8, yeah.
Just 2 minutes after.
All right. So we are, it's the 17th of Tevet, and we are learning Shmuel I, chapter 1, verse 6. We started last week. We met a gentleman by the name of Chana, and Chana was a special guy who was really enthusiastic about going up to Bet HaMikdash. He went up several times a year. He made sure to encourage other people to go up with him, to join him. Participation was weak in those years. People felt that because it's not a permanent structure, it didn't have a roof until it was moved from Shiloh to Yerushalayim. God Almighty, we have we have some sounds.
Like
sounds, yeah, it sounds like SpaceX.
Did it physically not have a roof?
Yeah, it didn't physically have a roof.
So what's the elements?
The hide from the tabernacle was covering so it had just walls. So people felt that they're not supposed to, they're not obligated to go up, and they didn't. They found all kinds of reasons, legitimate or not to go up, and he encouraged them. He was married to Chana for 10 years, didn't have children, and he married a second wife, Pnina, in order to rectify the children's situation, and she gave him 10 kids. But he still lived with both of them, as it was allowed in those days. And he still loved Chana very much, and wanted to make sure that she feels good, and she encouraged her. She obviously was devastated and unhappy because she did not have any children. So he gave her extra especially when they went to Shiloh, to Bet HaMikdash. So when people go to Bet HaMikdash, they are asking for things. So Chana was specifically asking for children, because Pnina was asking for other things, for clothes for the children, but she was asking for children. So that brought again the devastation, the sadness, the injustice, that's brought back to her, and she felt much worse when they would go up to Bet HaMikdash. Just on a regular Tuesday afternoon, it was not so acute, the feeling of missing children. So when they were there, he gave her, and possibly also when they were not there, but he gave her an extra portion. He did not have to give portion for her kids, obviously, so he gave her an extra portion. And we said last time we read the Pasuk Hey, that he gave her one extra portion. Now, apayim is a word that's being used in various ways. Erech apayim, right? What is erech apayim when we say that God is erech apayim? We mean to say that He is patience, right? What?
Long suffering.
He is erech apayim. He's prolonging is becoming angry, from prolonging himself and becoming angry, holding his wrath, right? So apayim, chamat af means wrath, means anger. So he gave her because she was upset, and that extra gift, that extra portion, caused Pnina to be upset. Discrimination, how come? You're giving her more, you favoritism, etc. So that one extra portion that he meant to give her to make her feel good, in turn made Pnina feel, not so good. So what did he do? What did she do? וכעסתה צרתה גם כעס בעבור הרעימה, כי סגר השם בעד רחמה. So she made Chana miserable. Pnina was not acting nicely towards her. The rabbis are saying that she had good meanings and sort of struggling to explain what exactly she meant by it. I'm not sure. I don't fully understand. But the bottom line is that, at least on the surface, she was really not nice to her, and she was taunting her. So, did you wake up the children today to go to school, knowing that she doesn't have any children? Did you prepare? Did you cook lunch? Prepare lunch for them? Are you going to pick them up from the bus? Really, that's what the Medrash is saying. Minus the bus. It's she was taunting her a lot, and so she was adding not only that Chana was upset on her own, she got an extra portion of upsetness, of anger, of sadness, because of the tzara. Tzara is the trouble, right? The trouble that was living with her at home. The other wife of Elkanah, Pnina. And what was she upset? One of the reasoning behind Pnina's behavior was that, listen, you are really ruining the whole ambiance in the house. The whole aura is of depressing type of aura here, and quit it. It's Sarah didn't have children until she was very, very old, and we don't hear that she was crying as much as you do, and some of the other our mothers also didn't have children so easily, and Rachel was not crying all the time and making everybody depressed around her. So quit it, stop. Ki sagar Hashem be'ad rachma, because God was closed her womb, and she was not able to have children. That's to tell us that otherwise, if not God's doing, she would have had children naturally, because there was nothing medically so wrong with her. She just didn't have it. So, וכן יעשה שנה בשנה מדי עלותה בבית השם. כן תכעיסנה ותבכה ולא תוכל. So, he was, Elkanah, was acting in favor of Chana every year. The 3 times a year that he was going for the Chagim, some people say that he went basically alone, and only the 4th time that he went with the entire family. Some said that he went all 4 times with the family. But every year when he would go up, he would give her the extra portion, which triggered Pnina's displeasure with the situation, and she taunted Chana, etc. Now, the end result of it is that Chana was so upset that she didn't eat. So she got double portion, but she had nothing. So it's sort of was defeating the purpose, but that's the way it was. So
this is being written by Shmuel.
That was written. That was written by Shmuel.
Right, so it's almost like he's writing in the third person when he's talking about himself and everybody else, but he's really making a first-person attack against Penina.
He was not making an attack against Penina. He was writing this book with the sole reason to understand and to teach the Jews a whole bunch of lessons, and to make us all understand what's the background for things, what was happening. The fact is that Shmuel was born on Rosh Hashanah, and on Rosh Hashanah we are reading the Maftir, the prayer of Chana. So he needed to. Why was she praying so much? What was so? We will talk in a second about what was so bad. Why was she so upset? So that's really the next pasuk. Vayomer la Elkanah isha. So Elkanah was telling her, Chana, lama tifki, why are you crying so much? Not why are you crying really, but why are you crying so much? Why are you so devastated and upset? Velama lo tuchli, why aren't you eating? Velama ira levavech, and why are you so upset? Alo anachi tov lach ma'asara banim. I am good for you more than the 10 sons that I had with Pnina. So let's understand what's going on here. Seemingly, it's not really clear why is he surprised that she's upset, right? You know, a woman that doesn't have children naturally would be upset. Why is he so? So this is one of the things that we are being taught here, and that's the whole discussion of pur, of reproduction, and who is responsible for it, and what exactly is the nature of the mitzvah. So we'll start with a short story about Chizkiah. Chizkiah was the great-grandchild of David HaMelech. Was the king Chizkiah, right? Was a pious king, was very, very special king. And he did not have children. At one point, Yeshaya, the prophet Yeshaya, came to him and said, I have a prophecy to tell you. You are going to die soon, and you're going to go, before your time, and that's it. There is a decree in heaven for you to go. So he said, "What I do? He was a pious person. Was doing the right thing. Was one of the few kings after Shlomo that was doing the right things, and so why?" So he said, because he didn't have children. And there is a mitzvah to have children, pur, and you don't have a child, you didn't marry. So he said, but that's all justified because I saw Beruach HaKodesh, or I was told that my children are going to be, evil kings. His son was Menashe, who was one of the, if not the most evil kings of the time of the house of David HaMelech. And so he said, why the trouble? I mean, I don't want. He was king for like 80 years, and he did nothing but trouble for the Jews, idolatry, etc. So Chizkiah's solution was, let's not have a child, and problem solved. So Yeshayahu told him, no. You have an obligation to bring a child to the world. You have to bring a child. You have to get married, and you have to bring a child to the world. What this child is going to do is not you have to, try to educate him properly, but it's not your, responsibility to act like God. So Chizkiah realized that he made a mistake, and he prayed, extra strong and extra hard, and God forgave him, and he lived for 15 more years, and he used these years to get married and to have his child Menashe, obviously, who turned out to be not that good. However, his children were better, and we have the house of David as a result of that. So it's very, very important to have children. There is a mitzvah that a person should not, pass, and they should have children. Now the question is how many, when are they allowed to stop having children? When are we allowed to stop having children? So there is like everything else, there are several opinions. I'll just stick to the basic halakha that a person should have a boy and a girl. That's the halakha. A person should have a boy and a girl. Now, a boy and a girl, at least a boy and a girl. A boy and a girl that have children, meaning he needs to have grandchildren. So if someone had a boy and a girl, and one of them, God forbid, passed away, they have to replenish. They have to have more in order to fulfill the mitzvah fully. Obviously, not everybody merits to do that, and that's God's calculations, but that's the basic mitzvah. Now, someone who had a boy and a girl is not allowed to sit without a wife, so and not and cease from doing it, and a person's supposed to continue to do it, until he just doesn't work anymore, but he needs to continue to have children. So that is the basic halakha. Now, who has the obligation to do it? Is the man, the woman, both? So the halakha is that only the man has the obligation to have children, not the woman. And I'm fully expecting next week to have a protest here from the Me Too movement, that how come we excluded women, they're not, how dare, and Judaism is discriminatory, etc., etc., etc. Obviously, this is exactly the opposite situation. And the reason, there are many explanations of why a woman is not obligated to have children, and I will enumerate several of them. First and foremost, it's to give her the right to choose, which the man doesn't have the right to choose. She does not have the obligation, to a point where there was this, the wife of Rab Chia had a terrible time carrying a child in childbirth. She had a very hard time being pregnant and giving children and giving birth to children. And so she was sort of, enough. So they fulfilled the obligation. They had a boy and a girl, and then she wore a costume, and she came to her husband and was asking a question as if she's another woman. If a woman is allowed to not, is a woman obligated to give children, to make? So he said no. So she drank what used to be they used to have this chemical where if a woman would drink it, she becomes sterilized, and she will not bear children. It's not allowed to do a medical procedure for it, as far as I know. Again, I'm not an expert in it at all, but in those days, they didn't have a medical procedure, or didn't use a medical procedure. They used just some sort of a liquid, some sort of a chemical. So she did it, she drank it, and her husband was upset with her, but not halachically, because she was in the right. He was upset with her because he wanted another child. I mean, I wish you can give me another child, but he did not criticize her halachically, because the halakha is that she's not obligated to give birth to children. Because it's also dangerous. For the man, it's not really dangerous, so it's very easy. Okay, I'm obligated.
So what if before a man has a boy and a girl, the wife undergoes menopause?
So
is he obligated to take a second wife?
So nowadays, no. In those days, back then, yes. That's one of the reasons. After 10 years of not having children with Chana, Elkanah took Pnina as a second wife because of this obligation. Now, there are other implications which are probably more palatable to the Me Too movement, where who can force to get a divorce, to receive a divorce. So a man has, after 10 years of not having children, he can divorce his wife if he wants, and take another and marry another one in order to fulfill the obligation. The wife cannot do it because of that. She can do it for other reasons, but she cannot do it because of not having children.
What if the man is the infertile one? Then they didn't have tests.
They didn't have, yeah. But the point is that it's at least the original halakha, and there are many newer adjustments to it due to the knowledge that we have, which I'm not familiar with, but that's another reason why, because it's dangerous. So a person, the Torah is not obligating a woman to go danger to her life by forcing her to have children. And another reason is that usually a woman wants children anyway more than a man. And there is no reason to load her with extra obligation when her desire is so strong anyway. So anyway, the bottom line is that Elkanah had fulfilled his obligations and didn't feel any need to go crazy beyond that. And this is the basis for his questioning Chana, why are you crying so much? I understand that you want a child, but it's not like you have an obligation to do it. So that's and if you're worried about having someone taking care of you when you're old, which is the halachic reason why that's mentioned why women can demand children. There are several stories of women that came to rabbis and said, I don't have children, I want to get, and I want the divorce. Now I remember that was the question here. So, and the rabbis granted her a get because the husband was not able to produce children. So there are several stories in Masechet Yevamot about that. So the rabbis gave her way because she chose to have it. So, but obviously Elkanah was troubled by it, and he was asking her why and how come, and maybe just give it up, so to speak. ותקום חנה אחרי אוכלה בשילה ואחרי שתו, ואלי הכהן יושב על הכיסא על מזוזת היכל השם. So Chana obviously did not give up the hope to have a child. She really wanted it, and she realized also that Elkanah does not have exactly the same goals in mind. He's not really fully behind that kind of he's not motivated. He's not motivated to daven as much as she is. So she decided to take the extra step and daven more, and take care of it herself. So after they ate, after the meal, now which meal was it? That was the meal of eating korban shlamim. Okay, so one of the when people came to Bet HaMikdash, the obligation was to bring korban and korban shlamim, and that korban shlamim was divided. Some of it was burned on the altar, some of it was given to the Kohen, and some of it was eaten by the giver, by the person who gave the offering with his family in Yerushalayim, to create happiness, to create togetherness, and to have the ability and the merit to eat from a holy meat. This is a korban. It became a korban as soon as the Kohen, the procedure was done on the animal before bringing it to the altar. So it's a holy piece of meat, needed to be consumed in a specific time period, 2 days, in one night. You can't leave. No leftovers are allowed. So they sat and ate over there, the entire family, the korban shlamim. Now, and they also, as part of the meal, they were drinking. She wasn't. And this is a grammar tidbit. Ochla, that means she ate. Shato doesn't mean she drank. It was drunk, somebody drunk. Drinking was going on, exactly. If it was, in order to make this that she drank, we need another taf, shateta, or shatta. So anyway, so she was not drinking, and it's very important to mention it because one of the complaints later of Eli that she might be drunk. How come you're drunk, right? So which we will read in a second. So after the meal, what was happening in Bet HaMikdash is everybody came in the morning. The Kohanim would bring the korban tamid, and everybody else would line up to sacrifice their korban. And after a certain number of hours, the line, ended, and they all went home to eat their part of the korban. And it was quiet in Beit HaMikdash. It was quiet in Beit HaMikdash, and she decided to go back and use that quiet time and be there alone and pray. ואלי הכהן יושב על הכיסא על מזוזת היכל השם. So Eli הכהן became Kohen Gadol, became the high priest on that day. Now, if we look historically, he became the high priest and the leader of the Jews after Shimshon passed away. So Shimshon must have passed away or was killed by the Plishtim, or killed himself with the Plishtim, in the throwing the beams of they held the house, right? So it just happened. So the whole nation was under that. Just read it in the newspaper the day before, and we're under the impression, the strong impression that left. So they right away got someone else to replace Shimshon as the leader, and that was Eli. So Eli HaKohen was on that day was 58, and he would rule for 40 years. So he died at the old age of 98. But now he's 58 years old, and he was sitting Yoshev al hakiseh al mezuzat echal Hashem. How do we know that he became a priest? Hu Yoshev al hakiseh al mezuzat echal Hashem. So he was sitting on a chair right at the doorpost of the Echal, of the Ulam, the Bet HaMikdash. Now, how was the Bet HaMikdash constructed? So there were 4 walls. There was a building, right? And that building had 2 rooms. Had the Kodesh, the Holy, and the Holy of Holies, right? And that's the Echal. The whole thing is called the Echal. There was the Ulam, Kodesh, and then the Kodesh HaKodashim. And so that's the 4 walls. And then there was the altar right outside of the entrance. And all of that area around Beit HaMikdash was gated with some sort of a fence or wall, and that was called the Azara. Okay? And there were 2 pieces to the Azara, the piece where the altar is Ezrat Kohanim, and then there is Ezrat Israel, and so the law is that in the Azara you're not allowed to sit. You're not allowed to sit, even if you're a king from the house of David. You're not allowed to sit there. You have to stand at attention. It's a holy place. The only exception to it is the Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol was allowed to sit in the Azara. So we see here that Eli HaKohen was the Kohen Gadol because Hu Yoshev al HaKiseh, he was sitting on a chair at that spot, Al Mezuzat Echal Hashem, right outside, just on the doorpost of Echal Hashem.
What about a non-Kohen Gadol, a Kohen?
A Kohen Regil is also not allowed to sit. Only a Kohen Gadol is allowed to sit over there. And I think the reason is because when they read on Yom Kippur and during Hakel, so they heal the whole ceremony that they sit, and there is a mitzvah that's connected with their the permission to sit in the Azara. Okay. So now we have the painting of where exactly what's going on, and now she's coming to pray. And from this point on, this is the first prayer, the first tefillah of Chana. There were 2. This is the first one of them. And this is where we start learning Hilchot Tefillah. This is the section where we start learning all kinds of things that should be done during the tefillah from her. So Vehi Marat Nafesh. So that's number 1. in order to help someone when they daven, they have to really have a broken heart, because God is listening to a broken heart. V'imarat nafesh. So this is the first thing that the state that she was in. Vatitpalel al Hashem, and she was praying not to, but on top of, meaning it's more of a language of a demand, of complaint, of not so much in front of, but more with strength to sort of demand. I want an answer. I want my demand to be fulfilled. I want this child. So that's another thing that we are learning, that when someone prays, they have to pray to God. So if someone, God forbid, is sick, they should not be praying to God and to the doctor. They should pray only to God, so God makes sure that the doctor does their job. You cannot pray to someone else. So v'titpalel al Hashem, and it's okay to demand. It's okay to demand from God. I really want something. I really want.
Although it does sound counterintuitive.
It does sound counterintuitive.
You're not going to approach a king, let alone God, and demand something.
Right, but we are not only slaves, we are also sons. We are children of Hashem. So, as children of God, we have the right to. So we have the right. God promised us all kinds of things. So we want it to stay not on paper. We want it actualized. Uvachot tifked. That's the third thing that we're learning, that crying when davening is a very effective tool. Sha'arei dim'a lo ninalu leolam. The gates of tears are never ever locked, never ever closed. So there is, when someone is in need, that's one thing that they do. Vatidor neder, that's number 4. Vatidor neder. So we learn that when someone is asking God for something, it's good to take upon ourselves something else, that we otherwise wouldn't do, or wouldn't keep, or wouldn't be careful with, as an extra measure. And I'll go the extra mile. I'll learn more. I'll give more tzedakah. Whatever is the mitzvah that we feel that we are weak in. I'll make sure to put on tefillin every day, to keep Shabbos better. Whatever the mitzvah that we feel weak in, it's a good time to make a promise. So she made a neder, which is stronger than a promise, and she said, "Vatomar Hashem tzvakot imraot tireh b'oni amatecha." So she called the name of God, and as we said last time, this is the first time that this name of God, tzvakot, the army of God, as God's master of what?
Legions.
Of legions, right? Hashem tzvakot. This is the first time that it's mentioned in the Tanakh, and the first time that a private person is using it, and we'll talk about it in a second. So, if you are going to see Boni Amatecha, if you're going to see my poor state as your mate, Uzchartani, and you'll remember me, V'lo tishkach et amatecha, and you're not going to forget your servant, your mate, V'natata la'amatecha zera anashim, and you're going to give your mate a generation, a seed of people, a child, who is, we'll talk about what's the meaning of anashim. Untativ la'Hashem kol yemei chayav. So I'm going to give him to God for his entire life. I'm going to dedicate him to worship of God. He's going to be brought to Bet HaMikdash. He's going to be staying in Bet HaMikdash. He's a Levi. So anyway, he needed to do that. But Levim needed to start working at 25, learning for 5 years, and then actually serving from 30 to 50. And she said she's going to bring him right away. Umora lo ya'aleh al rosho, and he is going to be a Nazarite. He's not going to. He's going to be a Nazir. Have to grow his hair, not drink wine, etc., etc. We'll talk about it in a second. So there are a lot of details here. Now,
sounds familiar.
Yes, because Shimshon, his mother went through the same thing, and that's the reason I mentioned before that Shimshon just died. Shimshon just died, and he was a special person, and he was helping Am Yisrael rid of the Philistines, of our enemies, who were still bothering us and terrorizing us right now. And one of the reasons that Chana was so trying hard to have a child, she mentioned that she wanted for the purpose for public service. Because when a mother wants a child, she wants to have the child, at home and raise him and get nachas, every day. And she right away said no, she's going to give him away to God. She didn't ask for it for her own pleasure. She asked for it in order to save the Jews. And she felt...
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One, you were saying that if someone's making a prayer to God, they should make a promise to do something that they're not good at. But she was a very pious woman, so what lacking did she have? That's one. Two, she's making a promise for someone else, not for herself. It's
right.
like, God, help me, and
right.
I promise I'll get Dror to give
right.
more classes.
Right. So we will talk about when we are davening, we are asking God to help us. So it's good to do a neder. Not every neder is something that's lacking, that we're doing because we're lacking. It's something that we're going to do extra. So she is going to go the extra step, take the extra measure, and give her son and prevent her from having the day-to-day pleasure of raising a child. So she's giving up something. It's not because she was lacking something, we will see. She was mentioning, one of the reasons she mentioned your mate 3 times is because she felt that the 3 mitzvot that she is obligated to do, which is the acronym of her name, Chet for Chet for Chala, Nun for Nida, and Hey for Adlakat HaNer. So the mitzvah of giving challah from when you bake, the mitzvah of keeping mikveh, keeping the chot of nida, and the mitzvah of lighting the candles, Shabbos candles. That's Chana. So these are the 3 mitzvah that she was very careful with, that she was the mitzvah that she was obligated to do, and she was perfect. And she felt that's one of the reasons she felt like she can demand God, listen, I'm doing my part. Now do yours. And so she mentioned this tzvakot. Now what is tzvakot? There is a midrash that says that God is saying, Al pi ma'asai ani nikra. Based on what I do, this is how I'm being called. So when I merachem, when I have mercy on people, that's Yud Ke Vav Ke. When I when I strong and judge people, that's Shem Elokim. And when I do war with the evil forces, with the evil people of the world, then I'm being called tzvakot. So tzava is army, right? So this is like the army of Hashem. God is acting as an army. This is the name that we were using as a prayer to save us from our enemies. Now that Shimshon passed away, was killed, and we have still enemies, she's using this in order to get her personal child, her personal boy, who will take that role, and will continue what Shimshon did and save us from our enemies. Now, there are many, many discussions about this part of the prayer. One of them, he says, you have armies of people, armies of creatures in heaven and on earth. Just give me one. It's not like you can't do it. You just give me one. And the example that's given is that there is a king that's making a party, and there is a poor person standing outside and asking for a piece of bread, and nobody's paying attention to them. So they're pushing their way in, and they come in front of the king and say, listen, you're making this big party. I mean, give me a slice of bread, please. That is the attitude that Chana had. And then she said, now, so tzvakot is, there are 7 names of God that we're not allowed to erase. And those are the names that God is discussing when he says that based on my deeds, I'm. Now, the equivalent of those names in deeds are the attributes of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. Those are 10 attributes of a person, 10 attributes of God. 7 attributes of a person, 7 attributes of God. And those 7 attributes correspond to, each one of them corresponds to a name. The name Tzvakot corresponds to Midat HaNetzach, to the Midah of winning, victory. And the explanation for it is, what is Midat HaNetzach? So you have kings that are that are starting wars, even though they have plenty of resources, they have plenty of land, they have plenty of they have everything they need, but they start a war in order to win. In order to win the neighbor, in order to be stronger, in order to just because for no they don't need any. They find all kinds of excuses, but the bottom line is that they just want to win. They just want to go over the neighbor and be stronger, power hungry. And for this kind of a war, they're ready to open up their treasures and waste all of the treasures that their parents and their ancestors collected throughout the years in order to win that war. They don't need a specific field or piece of land or natural resource. Just in order to win, they're ready to sacrifice everything, all of their treasures. And what we are asking God to do is the same thing. Go deep, high up into higher levels of holiness, and even if we don't deserve, based on all the calculations, we don't deserve. Do it anyway. And don't withhold any of your power, don't withhold any of your treasures in order to make us win, and in order to make us have what we need. Now, the rabbis are teaching us that Shmuel was the first prophet after Moshe of that level, of a higher level, of a level that draws from that power, from that level from that name of God, from the name of Tzvakot. So, and with that kind of a strength, he was able to anoint a king, and he was able to start the process of a whole new way of governing us, which will turn into a way of running wars, of conquering the place, of making sure that what God promised us we take, and we fight for it. And the whole dynasty of David HaMelech started because of the name of Tzvakot, because of the Midat HaNetzach, because of the whole idea of a king trying to win, even though there is no other reason other than to win. They're trying to win the war. That's all started here. Now, last thing before we stop, Imra'ot tir'eh. So she's saying something very interesting. We know the law of sotah, right? Sotah is if a woman who's married is going into a seclusion with another man who is not her husband and staying with him a certain period of time that seems like possible that they had a sexual relationship, extramarital affair, and so the husband can warn her, and if she does it again, take her and make her drink the water in the Bet HaMikdash. It's a whole procedure. We're not going to elaborate on this second, but she's drinking water, that special water, and if she's guilty, the water kills her, and she ends up dying. And if she's not guilty, and because she's saying that I didn't do anything wrong, if she's saying that she did something wrong, she's not drinking. We don't let her drink. The water are there in order to Mei Sotah are there in order to determine if she's telling the truth or not. So if she was lying, and she was indeed doing something wrong with that other man, so she ended up dying. But otherwise, she's ending up being better. So if she was not able to have children, she will have children. If she was giving birth to ugly children, she's going to give birth to pretty children. I mean, she's getting an upgrade. So she said, I'm going to just do it. I'm just going to go with another man somewhere in front of you, Elkanah, in front of my husband, Elkanah. She's talking to God, right? And I'm going to make sure that he's going to take me, because that's the only time that there is a promise from God. If a sotah drinks the water and she didn't do anything wrong, she gets children. So if that's the only way to do it, I'm just going to do it. So she was pushing very, very strong.
Is that time frame defined? How long she had to have been with the man?
Yes. It's not long.
Hours?
No, not hours. Minutes. Minutes. Yeah. I mean, it's it's defined in Masechet Sotah very, very well. So then she's stating that she gave a promise that she's going to give her child to Hashem. So he is a Levi. He's anyway going to be there. It's just that he's going to get there early. And the question that you ask, the Radak is asking, how come she can promise on somebody else's cheshbon? How can she promise for someone else to do it? And the Radak, who lived in the 1200, in the year 1200 in France, said that he didn't find any answer for it in the Talmud. But later rabbis tried to explain. It's not fully always, 100%. The question is better than the answers. But some of the answers are that Elkanah heard it and agreed to it because he has the power to do it for the son. A father is allowed to promise something in the name of the son. He heard it and he did not tell her, how come you're making a neder? We learned that if a woman makes a neder, the husband can annul it. The point is that we are sort of equating Shimshon to Shmuel. There is a disagreement in the Gemara, but the halacha is that indeed he was a Nazir, a Nazirite. He was a Nazir from birth, and just like Shimshon was, and that's basically Shmuel is writing. That's how we arrived to the world, and we'll continue with more details about her prayers next time.
Two questions.
Yeah.
First, I think you said